It was just after 9 when it happened. He grabbed the boy's 6-year-old Noah still holding a piece of green sidewalk chalk in his tiny hand, right in the middle of drawing a smiling T-Rex. His mother, Claire, froze for just a heartbeat too far to reach him in time. One of the men, dressed like some knockoff law enforcement officer, was already pulling the child away. But then, from the porch behind her, came a quiet voice, just one word. And what followed, no one in the neighborhood saw it coming. But to truly understand how everything spiraled into chaos and fire, let's start at the beginning. It was one of those golden mornings that made Claire believe, even if just briefly, that the world still had good in it. Sunlight filtered through the oak trees lining the sleepy cul-de-sac of Golden Ridge Lane in Bellwood, Texas. The air was warm, smelled of fresh-cut grass, and was thick with the scent of jasmine from the hedges. Sprinklers clicked in rhythm down the street. A lawnmower somewhere hummed lazily. It was the kind of suburban peace you didn't question until it was shattered. On the driveway of their modest home, little Noah crouched over his chalk drawing, tongue poked out in concentration. He was halfway through adding purple scales to his oversized dinosaur when his mom stepped outside onto the porch, cradling a ceramic coffee mug between her hands. Claire wore a faded sweatshirt and a pair of threadbare jeans. Her auburn hair was still damp from the shower. She looked like any other suburban single mom enjoying a slow Saturday morning. But underneath all that calm lived someone else. Someone who didn't forget who she used to be. Years ago, Claire had been an instructor at Fort Bragg training elite soldiers in hand-to-hand combat, field survival, and counter-abduction tactics. She had worn the stripes, the scars, and the silence of someone forged in fire. That life was long behind her, or so she thought. Noah hummed a little tune as he drew. Every few seconds, he'd pause and tell his T-Rex story aloud. Claire smiled gently. In a world that often felt frayed and cruel, Noah was her tether, the reason she still had faith in anything. Then came the sound. Not loud. Just a low, predatory rumble of an approaching engine. Claire's grip tightened on her coffee. Her eyes narrowed. Down the street, a black SUV rolled, a newer model, spotless, with tinted windows and no license plates. Something about how slowly it moved made the hairs on the back of her neck stand straight. Not a neighbor. Not a delivery. It moved like a hunter. The SUV stopped in front of their house. Claire set her mug down on the porch rail and stepped down slowly, positioning herself protectively between her son and the vehicle. Her instincts fired off like a silent alarm. 2 men exited. Both wore navy blue tactical-style uniforms, not quite police, but clearly designed to look that way. The patches on their sleeves read Community Code Enforcement. No badges. No name tags. They had utility belts with plastic-looking radios and what appeared to be stun batons. Claire immediately clocked them for what they were: fakes. The taller of the two, broad-shouldered with a buzz cut and mirrored sunglasses, spoke first. This residence is in violation of Section 5C of Neighborhood Policy, unauthorized markings on the driveway. Claire's jaw clenched. There is no Section 5C. What neighborhood are you even pretending to represent? The second man, shorter, stockier, with thinning blonde hair and a clipboard, pointed at Noah's chalk dinosaur. Graffiti, he said flatly. It's not permitted. We are authorized to enforce compliance. Step aside, ma'am. Claire's voice went cold. That's sidewalk chalk. And you don't touch my son. The taller man didn't even look at her. He walked toward Noah. Claire's heart dropped. Noah, she called. The boy stood up halfway, confused, just as the man grabbed his wrist. I said get your hands off him. Claire's voice shifted into something darker, firm, lethal, and commanding. The man turned halfway toward her, annoyed. Ma'am, step back or... But Claire was already moving. Too far to snatch Noah in time. Too far to stop it with words. But not too far to win. Behind her on the porch, Claire's elderly father, Ray Silent until now, pressed the call button on his phone and spoke one word: go. What happened in the next 10 seconds would later be picked apart by media pundits, celebrated on the internet, and replayed in courtroom transcripts. But for Claire, it wasn't drama. It was defense. The taller fake cop suddenly jerked violently backward. Someone had burst from the hedge behind the SUV. A hand locked around his neck, and in seconds he was dragged into the bushes with a choked gasp, flailing. The second man, still holding Noah's arm, froze. That split second was all Claire needed. She crashed into him shoulder first, knocking the wind out of him. As he staggered back, she dropped into a low pivot, swept his legs out, and slammed him down with clinical efficiency. The sound of his body hitting concrete echoed across the street. Noah ran back toward the porch where Ray caught him in his arms. Claire pinned the man's arm behind his back, kneeling on him. "You just made the worst mistake of your life," she said, low and clear. Across the street, neighbors had started to appear. Phones raised. Whispers turned to gasps. "Did they try to grab her kid?" someone shouted. "Is that Claire Rayner?" "I think that guy's bleeding." The man under Claire groaned, trying to twist away. "We were just doing our job." "No," she spat. "You were pretending. And you laid hands on my son." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Claire stood, breathing hard. Noah stood with Ray on the porch, hugging a plush stegosaurus. "You okay, buddy?" Claire called gently. Noah nodded, his voice shaking. "They said I was in trouble for the T-Rex." "You're not in trouble, sweetheart," Claire said, smiling through clenched teeth. "You made the best-looking dinosaur I've ever seen." The shorter man whimpered on the ground. Claire turned back to him. "You messed with the wrong mom." Police cars turned onto the street, tires screeching. The man who had been dragged into the bushes now lay zip-tied in Claire's backyard beside the overturned patio furniture. Her younger brother, Nate, calm, silent, methodical, walked back into view, brushing a leaf off his flannel like he'd just mowed the lawn. Claire stood in the driveway like a statue, steady now, breath-controlled. The man she'd tackled was no longer defiant. His bravado had drained, leaving only fear. Nate approached, pulling on latex gloves. "I don't think you realize who you just messed with," he said. Inside, Ray had taken Noah into the living room. The boy clutched his stuffed animal, eyes wide. Claire crouched beside the man, still groaning in pain. "Name," she snapped. "Who sent you?" The man stuttered. "We're with the HOA enforcement team. Code compliance. It's just a misunderstanding." Claire raised an eyebrow. "No ID. No posted citation. No approval from the real HOA. You think I can't spot a scam?" The man looked like he wanted to vanish. Then he moved suddenly, stupidly reaching for something inside his vest. Claire was already moving, but Nate got there first. He twisted the man's wrist backward until a cheap plastic stun baton clattered to the pavement. "Still assault," Nate muttered. "Still evidence." He shoved the man back down. Claire looked to her brother. "He tried to stun me." "Looked that way," Nate said. "Too bad it's a toy." Inside, Ray opened the front door just a crack. "ETA 90 seconds, he called. Claire's mind raced. These weren't random imposters playing dress-up. Their gear was coordinated. Their language rehearsed. Their timing perfect. This was planned. Targeted. "They've done this before," she said aloud. "Yeah," Nate agreed. "They were expecting fear. They got fury." Claire knelt again. "What's your game? Fake citations? Fake cops? Then what ransom? Blackmail? Who else is part of this?" Silence. But when the real cops arrived, everything exploded. The taller Officer Reed approached fast, scanning the scene. "You did all this?" he asked, almost incredulous. "She trained half your department," Nate muttered. More units rolled in. Tape went up. Neighbors talked. Claire gave her statement. So did Nate. And Ray. The two fake cops were separated, cuffed, loaded into different cruisers. Then someone opened the SUV's trunk. Inside, dozens of zip ties, lengths of pre-cut rope, fake HOA citations, a burner phone, and a box of photographs. Pictures of neighborhood homes. Kids' play sets. Driveways. Claire stared at the contents. "That's a hunting list," Nate said. Detective Miles arrived minutes later. Older. Grizzled. Tired of the world's garbage. "Let me guess," he said. "Fake HOA. Real chaos." "You're not the first call," he added. "For neighborhoods. Same SUV. Same playbook. But this time we've got faces, footage, and a pissed-off mom." What followed made headlines. What the investigation uncovered shocked the country. The two men were part of a loosely connected scam network, imposters exploiting neighborhood HOAs as cover for extortion and sometimes abduction. The files revealed names, addresses, even scripts for how to intimidate parents. Claire became a symbol of defiance, of preparedness, of fire. The footage went viral, posted by a neighbor, not Claire. Within hours, national news picked it up. Edits appeared online. Hashtags exploded. TikToks played her takedown in slow motion with action music. The story: a former Special Forces instructor takes down two fake HOA enforcers trying to abduct her child. The reaction was thunderous. Federal charges followed. Claire refused most interview requests. But when she finally agreed to one, she made one thing clear. No drama. Just facts. When asked what it felt like to see someone grab her son, Claire paused. Like my bones remembered something my brain forgot. And I only had one mission: make sure my son survives. That clip was shared across the country. Letters poured in from judges, teachers, veterans, and grateful parents. One letter from a retired judge in Oregon said, "You reminded the world that justice isn't confined to courtrooms. Sometimes it begins in a driveway." Claire cried reading that one. Noah had nightmares, but they faded. And one morning, he drew another dinosaur, this one protecting a stick figure mom with a cape, squashing two tiny people labeled HOA. Claire knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "You like it?" Noah asked shyly. She smiled. "I love it. Because some battles aren't won in court. They're won by the people who refuse to let evil pass. And sometimes justice doesn't knock. Sometimes it kicks the door in."